Welcome back to the conversation. We are talking about gratitude with some of the most powerful guests we've had on Portia, talking about beating the odds. Yes, Daddy, because I know you're watching, we have blessed the food, so that's why we started to dig in. And it is delicious. Thank you so much, Chef Antoine. So I want to get now to the conversation that we had with the Parsons. And that was just so candid. You talking about life as a hustler.
Right.
Flipping bricks.
Flipping bricks.
And now flipping houses.
Flipping houses.
If you know, you know.
Yeah.
If you don't, you were a drug dealer.
Right.
And you don't apologize because you feel like that there are people who need to understand what life is like after hustling.
They do.
And
They
you
do.
were not flipping the bricks, but you were standing by your man,
Right.
knowing what he was doing with your family, like, girl, what are you doing?
Right, absolutely, yes.
The lessons for you all about the gratitude for the tough times.
The tough times was definitely tough. The way I show my gratitude being a hustler is when I go back to my city, or even if I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, I try to reach these guys that I see was in the same position that I was. So I'm looking to talk to the drug dealers. I'm looking to talk to these guys who's in the street hustling and show them, hey, it's a whole nother way you can go. You can look cool doing it. You can be very, make a lot of money doing it. So I've been successful with that, and I appreciate being able to give back like that,
Right.
you know what I mean? And they can physically see it too. I'm not just saying, hey, this is lucrative and you can do it and you can be happy, you know, it's just a different game.
Right.
And, you know, they're able to see me do it, so.
But what made you leave that game was a very dangerous encounter, right? I mean, and it was a very dangerous lifestyle,
was,
right?
right,
And you
it
got
was.
to have to go back, go to PortiaShow.com and look up the story with the Parsons.
Right.
But there was a particular encounter
Right.
that made you realize, I've got to take this woman. I've got to. We got to get out of here. Before you tell that, let's take a look at the clip from your show.
Okay.
Okay.
I was a big time hustler in Indianapolis. So when I decided to change my life, you know, I came home one night after something went on and told my wife I wanted to change my life.
I mean, it was a struggle. He kept saying he wanted to go back. I would call his mom and say, hey, Doug's trying to come back, you know, and I would say, well, I'm not going to go with you to try to encourage him to stay.
And when you say go back to that lifestyle
Go back to that lifestyle, go back to the city where we're from, you know.
Because it's hard when you first leave that life, making the money you were making and being comfortable, right? So what did you end up doing?
Right.
So first, of course, when we left, I had a ton of money, but you know, I quickly ran through that. You know, we started to try a few businesses that didn't work. So I actually was tremendously humbled when I had to go get one of my first jobs ever, and that was at like an auto auction,
washing
detailing cars.
For you, the lessons for your children and the young people who watched you shift from a really rough lifestyle and you supporting and saying, we're not doing this. I'm not letting you go back.
Exactly.
The lesson for folks who are watching.
The lesson I would say is do the right thing the first time. You know what I'm saying? Because the situation that you've replayed, it was like I could have lost my life. You know what I mean? And at that point, when I could have lost my life, I knew these guys were actually murderers in my city. So I knew these was real people. So it was like I had to make a choice, like, do you want to go possibly to prison if you retaliate? Do you want them possibly to kill you? Or do you want to just go ahead and change your life? You know, so at that point, I went home that night and I was ready to change my life.
Yeah.
You know?
Antoine, I see, before we come to you, Carmen, I see you shaking your head because you can relate to a certain extent, right?
For sure. Best friend home invaded me. I used to have, I was the plug too.
Right.
Yeah, my best friend came home from prison. I tried to put him in position.
Yeah.
But he's like, I ain't trying to do that no more.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, you know, well, tell me what you want to do. And then they came up with some plan to, you know, try to, you know, but God had his hands on me the whole time, you know what I mean?
Did.
And God had his hands on you too, Carmen, because you had, it was very different from anyone else at the table, but as a child, you lost your parents early, and there were a lot of secrets about what was going on and why your mother was sick and what was happening that forced you to have to take a big girl role at a young age.
Yeah.
Tell me.
It was a very confusing time because we're talking about the early 90s. There are things being thrown around but not really explained. My mother died from AIDS. We didn't understand how she died. We didn't know why she died. We also understood that my father died a year and a half later from the same thing, but how did this come about? So it wasn't until I became an adult that I understood that my father was an addict and that she caught it sexually transmitted, but you know, there's no details in what this means, but we are in an environment in Brooklyn, New York, Crown Heights, where there are drug dealers, crackheads, and gangs everywhere. And we had to figure out how to maneuver in this situation without parents now.
Let's take a look at a clip from the show about how you dealt with it as a very young lady.
Our house was pretty, it was very abusive, like sometimes physically, but mostly emotional. You know, not everyone that moved in after my mother died probably should have been there, and they didn't know how to deal with young children. So it was just like
and these were the people who were entrusted, though, to help get you through and stand in the gap.
And so I was like the next in charge when it came to my brother and sister, which meant
is a lot of pressure.
Right. I had to create a goal. It was like, okay, if mommy was still here, this is what she would expect you to do. So what is it that you would do if she was here? What would you tell her that you were going to do?
I have to imagine your mother would be so proud.
I would like to believe that. I wanted my brother and sister to still have some sense of normalcy because we did have a lot of people moving in and out at various times throughout the next 4 years that I was there. But I wanted my brother and sister to see, like, we do have a way out of here. You don't necessarily have to go to the street. Now, my younger brother, he's 2 years younger than me. That's exactly what he did. He couldn't take the pressure of being in the house because it was abusive. But I wanted him to see, like, listen, mommy would expect us to go to school. So finish school.
Let's finish.
I went to college. My sister did go to college. She graduated. She had to take a break because we're all dealing with the same trauma but differently.
But you were such a good model of leadership for a little girl who did not get any kind of prep for how to lead in this way. And that's why I'm grateful to have you here today. This conversation is going to continue. Just shout out to Chef Antoine.
Absolutely.
Because this is really, really good.
Amazing.
Conversation and dessert when we return. Stay with us. It's good. Wish you were here. But you're not. More for us. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And I really want to thank you for season 3 of Portia. It's because of loyal viewers like you that we keep getting to share this daily dose of positivity all across the country. So just a reminder, I still need you to like, comment, and subscribe. And go ahead and tell your friends. You can catch us now in Orlando, in San Francisco, in Atlanta, and all across the country on Fox Soul. Tell your friends. We'll see you soon on Portia.